Greetings viewers. As some of you may be aware, I recently challenged YouTuber Anti-Neocons to a public debate on issues to do with Zionism, Israel, etc. To his credit, Ryan has responded, and while I can see some serious factual and logical flaws in his response, he has at least responded and not resorted to ad hominem. The same cannot be said about his myriad of fans who have posted comments on his videos and mine and on the Rise 2 Cents forum. You can go on the link to it if you like, and you will see that there's very little factual information or logical argument there in their responses. And there's also this very sick puppy who, in one foul swoop, in a bit of psychological warfare it appears, has effectively dehumanised two countries, Iraq and Israel. More on them in the very near future when I respond. However, unfortunately, there's been a sudden distraction. A distraction which has disrupted this debate. You could say it's a bit like a hurricane that took me off guard. I'll let Ryan explain.
I had a video called Palestine, which I made over a year ago, 2 years ago actually. I had 75,000 views on it, and it's been removed by YouTube. I wasn't even given a notice. I just went to look at it today and couldn't. Now the same exact video remains up in 2 different languages. However, the one in English has been removed.
That's right. The video was removed. And since then another one of Ryan's videos has been removed, and there have been a number of other anti-Zionists who've had some of their videos removed. All of this happening at a time when, possibly for the first time in YouTube history, the beginnings of a dialogue between a Zionist sympathiser and an anti-Zionist gets underway. Who could possibly benefit from pulling a few token anti-Zionist videos? Ryan has some speculation.
Now, a few weeks ago, somebody I didn't know sent me a message on YouTube and showed me a website. It was a Zionist website, and on there they had a list of names of people whose YouTube videos they would like to censor. They called everyone anti-Semites, but I saw my own name on the list. I'm not an anti-Semite. And I saw another person, Protein View, on there who was also not an anti-Semite whatsoever. So I said, what the hell? But I looked at the first 4 or 5 names, and sure enough, most of the people were garbage. Absolute trash. However, their videos haven't been censored, and yet mine has.
For some reason, Ryan has neglected to provide a link to this apparently Zionist website. If he's referring to the JIDF, the Jewish Internet Defence Force, I went there and neither his nor Protein View's names are there. And both his and Protein View's channels are still very much there, and most of Ryan's videos are still intact. There's also an implicit absurdity in Ryan's implicit argument. If this Zionist website had his Protein View's name and ones which Ryan acknowledges were trash, and yet those trashy ones are still there, then that suggests that this Zionist website doesn't have any real sway over YouTube policy. Could it be that another party is responsible for this censorship? A party which doesn't want such a debate to occur? Listen to what Ryan's about to say very carefully.
I can't have debates with people when the things that I want to say get removed within hours. It's not possible to communicate with somebody, even if they are earnest, when the points I need to make and things I want to show aren't allowed on YouTube.
I do hope Ryan isn't going to allow whoever's responsible for this censorship to disrupt our attempts at dialogue. The issues are too important, particularly considering most of his videos, including his video response to mine, are still very much there. Ryan seems to think it's the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, who are behind it, and cites as evidence this article in what seems to be a Pakistani newspaper as evidence. If one takes a closer look at this article, for one thing, there's no author. It's written by a website. And it's also loaded with rhetoric. Things like, "I know it sounds too weird to believe," and words to that effect. And it makes massive speculation about how now YouTube will no longer say anything bad about Israel. There'll be nothing about the 9/11 attacks and Mossad's supposed culpability for them, etc., etc. Now, if one just does a little search on YouTube, there's plenty of info, both good and bad, on 9/11, on Israel, and on numerous other controversial issues. It's also a little disingenuous and hypocritical of whoever wrote that article to whine on about supposed Israeli censorship of YouTube when Pakistan blocked the entire YouTube site recently, though they did lift it. And Pakistan aren't the only ones. Various other countries have. Turkey, Thailand. It's happened before. It is certainly true that YouTube has partnered with the ADL, as this Jerusalem Post article and this press release from the ADL itself confirms. However, what is the nature of this relationship between them? For a start, it was YouTube who reached out to the ADL. And the ADL's role in this seems to be primarily providing advice to YouTube users, such as this advice here. Now, whatever else may be said about the ADL, and I'll be talking about them more in a moment, this seems quite benign. There's no evidence that ADL are behind the recent censorship of anti-Zionist videos. And if they were, would they be serving a pro-Israel agenda? It would seem not. If we consult the Historical and Investigative Research website, the section on the problem of Jewish self-defense, which documents the history of Jewish leaders betraying the Jewish people, we can find many gems, including President of the World Jewish Congress, Edgar Bronfman, advising Arab terrorists to attack Jewish settlers. It's an organisation which ostensibly represents world Jewry. We also see Abraham Foxman here, the President of the Anti-Defamation League. The ADL is supposedly there to appeal to reason and conscience, and if necessary by appeals to law, the defamation of the Jewish people. In 2003, after the Ford Foundation was found to be financing openly anti-Semitic groups in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, there was a hoo-ha in the US House of Representatives about this and calls for an investigation. What Abraham Foxman did was oppose these calls for an investigation. This is in spite of the fact that the Ford Foundation, apart from many other horrible things it's been involved with, was created by Henry Ford, the chief in the West of promoting Nazi propaganda in the West. So, we have what is effectively an ultra-right-wing anti-Semitic organisation founded by a major anti-Semite being whitewashed by the head of an organisation which ostensibly has been set up to combat anti-Semitism. Do please think about that, because it is rather important. And considering that Foxman has also whitewashed the likes of Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian movement generally, it becomes clear that even if the ADL are behind the recent censorship of anti-Zionists, which is frankly unlikely, but even if they are, it must be pretty obvious by now that they are not serving an Israeli, Jewish or Zionist agenda by doing so. Considering that censorship of this kind is not at all uncommon on YouTube, the reaction of the anti-Zionists to it has been frankly bizarre. Here we have Matrix ECS's channel. His entire account was suspended some time back, but after a campaign by his friends and subscribers, we got it reinstated. One Cool Dude 3 here has now had his account suspended, and there is currently a campaign to get his account reinstated. Considering that Ryan has a very large subscriber and YouTube friend base, one has to ask why he hasn't called upon them to get his videos and the various other videos reinstated. He could call upon a veritable army of anti-Zionist YouTubers to help him out on this. Why hasn't he? Why is it that the anti-Zionists seem to be so prepared to surrender YouTube to the big bad Zionists. Very strange. Why are anti-Zionists playing the victim? The same kind of victimology they very often accuse the Jews of. Bit of an irony there. And why is it that most anti-Zionist videos are still up, and including the ones which are claiming ADL and Mossad are running YouTube now? And who is it that really doesn't want the Nazi origins of the Palestinian movement generally known about, and certainly does not want the anti-Zionist position challenged? Once we begin to answer these questions, we get a much better idea of just who may be behind the censorship of the anti-Zionists. Catch us later.